people study the Battle of Normandy, one of the elements that really kind of stands out are the paratroopers that secured the flanks of the Normandy coastline on June 6th. Now, on the American side, there was the 82nd and 101st Airborne. Each division had 3 different drop zones that they were going to be landing on. And we have some pretty cool things that we've brought along today that are connected with one of the regiments that dropped here in this area. And plus, we're also going to be looking at one of the most incredible stories to come out of D-Day. Right now, as I mentioned, we are in St. Martin DeVille, and here we're in kind of the town square near the church. And on D-Day, the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions were basically divided up into 3 different zones each that they were going to land on. The 82nd was going to land on 3 drop zones that were more to the west, and the 101st Airborne were going to drop in 3 drop zones to the east, A, C, and D. And their task was to secure the causeways that were coming in off of the beach and neutralize the guns, secure bridges, and basically secure the interior for the 4th Infantry Division that was coming in off of Utah Beach. Out here in St. Martin DeVille, we are just east of Drop Zone A for the 101st Airborne Division. The Drop Zone A was to be secured by the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment. And there was a gun battery that was very close to St. Martin DeVille that was essentially covering 2 exits. It was called exits or causeways 3 and 4. That was coming off of Utah Beach. So the guys who were landing east of here were to come in, secure this area, and take out that gun battery. Fortunately, the Germans had withdrawn the guns prior to D-Day because the RAF had bombed it, and they figured that they had already been found. So they got out. So the guns weren't here, but there was still much to be done in this area. Now, the 101st Airborne separated themselves from the 82nd in several ways. One of the unique ways that they separated themselves from the 82nd was how they identified one another in the darkness in the pre-dawn hours of June 6th.
I have the original D-Day cricket used by C.B. Williams, who was a staff sergeant in Company F, 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne. And his cricket is one of the original chrome versions of the cricket. The first 1,000 or so that was ordered by the 101st Airborne were made by Acme Company, and they were chrome. When they ordered the additional several thousand, they rushed them into production, and they didn't bother with the plating on them, and they were actually brass. They also didn't stamp the manufacturer's logo in there, the Acme logo. But here's a picture of C.B. Williams taken in Normandy, courtesy of historian Mark Bando. And I wanted to bring it to the area where the 502 landed and fought, and I wanted to click it for you a couple times. The way these worked was you were to challenge someone if you came across another soldier or someone in the night by making 1 click, and that person was supposed to respond with 2 clicks. So it would go 1 click for a challenge, 2 clicks for an answer. If you didn't hear those 2 clicks, it was assumed to be an enemy soldier.
We just walked into the church here at St. Martin DeVille, and on the morning of D-Day, there wasn't really a whole lot of fighting that took place in the town of St. Martin DeVille, but there was a German presence here. As a matter of fact, there were some 101st Airborne guys who There was a patrol that came through here, and they drove some German infantrymen out of the church. And when they came in here, well, they found a radio transmitter, and they found some German weapons. But like I said, not a whole lot of intense fighting right here in the area of the town. They ended up taking that transmitter and the weapons out in the street and blowing them up and destroying them. But anyway, there was some things that happened right here in this church.
I wanted to bring C.B. Williams cricket into this church to demonstrate how loud they can actually be. The echo in this church is amazing, so I wanted to snap the cricket in here and demonstrate just how loud it could be. So here it goes. So when you would click a cricket, the proper way was to click it once, and you were to wait for the response of 2 clicks. So interesting to hear it inside this church and how much the sound projects in here.
All right, now we're getting ready to leave St. Martin DeVille. Somebody banging on some metal here right next to us. And we're going to go just to the west of here. Just to the west of here, there was a little hamlet that the Allied planners had codenamed the XYZ Complex. And there's a 502nd guy who did some just insane things on D-Day here at this complex. I've now moved west of St. Martin DeVille to an area that was known to the Allied planners as the XYZ Complex. The XYZ Complex was really just a series of French farmhouses that was used to billet the German soldiers who were manning the gun battery that wasn't too far away. Well, on June 6th, this had to be cleared out. So there was a guy from B Company of the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment by the name of Harrison Summers that had an understrength platoon that came in to clear out this complex. And this dude is going to end up being like a one-man army. We're moving along the road, along the same route that Summers and the men who were with him were moving on June 6th. And in the XYZ complex, there were 11 buildings that had to be cleared. Now, you have to keep in mind, this is kind of a hodgepodge group. There were a lot of misdrops on D-Day, and you ended up with like these mixed groups of guys who, didn't really know each other, hadn't trained together. All of them have their own unique missions. So there might have been, a little bit of a trust factor, coming into play as these guys are moving down this complex. So Summers had moved into Building 1 by himself with a Tommy gun and had shot 4 Germans, and the others ended up running to the west down this road. Well, the buildings that we're looking at now are buildings 2, 3, and 4. In Building 2, Summers kicks in the door, and there was like a sick French child in there. For Building 3, he actually got some covering fire from a guy named William Burt, and he kicks in the door there and shoots 6 more Germans, and then Building 4 ended up being empty. So after clearing out Buildings 2, 3, and 4 here, Summers crossed the road and came up on Building 5, which is right here ahead of us. Now for Building 5, he got some assistance from a guy from the 82nd who had joined their group. And that guy, he was a captain, he ended up being shot by a rifle bullet But anyway, they had to go in and clear this one room by room. We got an angry dog coming out to greet us. And anyway, 6 more Germans were killed here in this complex. After clearing buildings 1 through 5, Summers and his crew are going to be coming up this road right here. And they're going to get to another cluster of 3 buildings that were coded 6, 7, and 8. This large building right here is building 8. And for these 3 buildings, Summers had a private that jumped in and helped him out. The private had a carbine, and they ended up taking turns clearing each building. So one would have the carbine, one would have the Thompson. The guy with the carbine would kick in the door and cover, while the guy with the Thompson would go in and spray the complex. So it's really just 2 guys that are clearing out these 2 buildings, and the other guys are just kind of hanging back for whatever reason. But between 6, 7, and 8, Summers and this other private end up killing another 15 German soldiers. And after that, they're going to continue right on down the road here to the last set of buildings in this complex. So by mid-afternoon, Summers and the men who were with him had cleared out buildings 1 through 8 and had moved about a quarter of a mile down to where I am right now. And when they got to building 9, which was a mess hall, Summers said that he kicks in the door and there's like 15 Germans sitting at the table eating, as if nothing had been going on. So he clears that out. And he said for some reason a lot of the guys that were with him were just kind of hanging back and watching him as he's going from building to building. And anyway, then they get up to buildings 10 and 11, which are right here in this area. By the time that Summers got to buildings 9, 10, and 11, he had some help. Lieutenant Colonel Cassidy had sent some reinforcements to help him out. There were some 4th Infantry Division guys who were going to be jumping in the fight. And this building right here, one of the men had hit the roof with a bazooka and it had caught fire. And there end up being like 50 Germans that pour out of this building. And they start charging across the field, and they just run right into a kill zone. I think like 30 of them ended up being killed, and the rest surrendered. And by the end of it all, old Harrison Summers is finally able to sit down and pull out a cigarette and take a smoke, and then think about just what in the world he had just done. He said he doesn't know why he did it, and that he would never do it again. Now, for his actions here on D-Day, Harrison Summers would be awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, which is a high award. It's definitely an honor. If I'm inserting my own opinion here, I think that what this man did on D-Day probably warranted being awarded the Medal of Honor. I mean, if you saw this in a movie, you would say that it was just too fantastic and too unrealistic. But it's one of these things where an ordinary guy did some pretty extraordinary things on the date of June 6th, 1944. So anyway, that was a little bit on the story of a guy from the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment and some of the equipment that they had here on D-Day.